Tecmo Bowl. When we were talking before about getting Kevin on from Oogie Games in Tonawanda and Nintendo's 25th anniversary, the story of Tecmo Super Bowl comes up, and whether or not Jim Kelly, I think, ever feels, like somehow he missed out by not allowing his name to be in the game.
Just number 12.
He was just number 12. But, I mean, if you're thinking back to, football games and games you played, and this has got to be high on your list, Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, all that Nintendo is. It's weird. Nintendo's celebrating their 25th anniversary. But, for example, if you look at some of their corporate history, at least posted on Wikipedia, where they get it, who knows? But, probably they tried a bunch of different things at first. Things that didn't exactly, work at first. Nintendo. They at one point invested in this Love Shack in Japan, and it's kind of like a hotel where you just go in, you hook up with someone for a little while, and then you leave. And they were going to start a chain of these.
Okay.
Pretty smart, by the way, right? There's a use for it. I'm not saying that it might be creepy to you. You might think, I'm not touching the sheets.
How did this tie into video games?
Yeah, they were just trying to make it. They were just looking for something. They were trying to make a business work, and so they were trying a bunch of different things. But they
found a different joystick, I guess.
Yeah, but they were involved in some playing cards and so children's games, and it was a natural extension then to video games, and eventually it caught on. So, but Kevin runs Oogie Games in Tonawanda. Is he ready to go?
Yeah, Kevin joins us right now.
Kevin, what's up? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Good. All right. So, how much time have you wasted on Nintendo over your lifetime?
Growing up, a lot. Now that it's funny, owning the video game store, everybody comes in and they're like, oh, you must play video games all the time. It's quite the opposite now. I'm running a business, working 6-7 days a week, but the girlfriend allows me a little bit of time at night to play my video games.
But, it was probably a lot of video game playing leading up to you going into that business.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I'm 28. So I born 1982, 3 years before Mario was out, So I grew up with the Nintendo, into the Super Nintendo and Sega, and, I've lived through it all just about, besides the Atari, but...
That was your one. What system did you have?
Growing up, I remember for Christmas we got a Nintendo NES. And my uncle came over with my dad, and the kids didn't get to touch it for a few days.
Right. They were off limits. Kevin's on from Oogie Games, Sheridan and Eggert in Tonawanda, and it's the 25th anniversary of Nintendo. Contra, was that your game?
What's that, Contra?
On the NES?
Yeah, Contra was nice. I also, probably my favorite NES game was Super Tecmo Bowl. You hit up some Bo Jackson and zigzag all the way down the field, and you scored just about every time you touched the ball.
Right, and you killed. And you what was your highest, in a game, highest score?
The scores were ridiculous. I remember running up with Thurman Thomas because the Bills were phenomenal on the Super Tecmo Bowl. You'd get 300-400 rushing yards with Thurman Thomas. James Lofton have another 4 touchdowns, and you were in the 60s to 40,
Right, and you just crush people, which was kind of cool in a way because as a kid growing up, you watched your Bills crush people for a while there, right? So it was sort of like it was almost believable?
It was almost believable. It's been a while since the Bills have been on a video game cover, but I think the last one was like 92 with Madden for Super Nintendo.
Right. Kevin's on from Oogie Games, Sheridan Eggert in Tonawanda. It's the 25th anniversary of Nintendo on Super Tecmo Bowl. Did you ever find yourself, at any point thinking, you know what? Well, here's what I'm going to do with this thing. I'm going to take the worst possible team, do like a lot of people do, make 10,000 different moves and try and actually win with the worst team possible.
It was pretty tough, man, because a lot of the top teams on that game just destroyed the smaller teams, So I remember a buddy of mine, I was probably, 8, 9 at the time. We used to just stay up all night playing like seasons because you couldn't shut the Nintendo off because it didn't save.
Right.
No memory cards back then.
Yeah, no memory cards, So if you wanted to play a season, you had to sit up all night, play the whole thing through, and then get your way to the Super Bowl. And, by the time our eyes were bleeding because we're staring at the TV because we're 2 feet away from it, trying to not wake up our parents.
Right.
I also heard of stories of people that would just leave the game on and try and cover it with a towel or something so their parents didn't see the game was on.
Yep. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to overheat, it's going to overheat. Not like today, man. Those video games back then, they just didn't overheat. The Xbox 360 has some overheating issues. And but not back then, man. You could leave those things on for 4 or 5 days, and it would be just fine.
Kevin is on from Oogie Games. It's the 25th anniversary of Nintendo. What was the biggest trouble you got, though, staying up all night playing video games? A test the next day? Had to go to school? Did you ever get busted on that?
Yeah, no, you know what? My parents were pretty cool, I got to be honest with you. They were the one buying us the video games, and, as long as we got our stuff done, we were good to go,
Hit the bell, and that's all that counts. Back to Super Tecmo Bowl. Have you pulled it out recently and went, wow, this is horrible?
Yeah, no, you know what? I enjoy playing it still. You know what? I remember all the moves, all the right plays that you had to make, and it's so funny being where I am now in my life. You go back to those old games, and they're so simple, but it's so fun to just be able to turn it on and play and actually win. You turn on Madden sometimes, and you haven't played it for a little while, you're a little rusty. So it takes a little, it might take a couple of days to get your controller fingers back or whatnot.
You're right, though. You can go back to some of those old games, and they're still fun to play. I remember a couple of years ago when all of a sudden the rage was those old Mattel football games. Remember the early ones with the 3 little red dots? We ended up getting one here in the office. We ended up playing it every day for about a month.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop playing it.
What we're planning on doing at the store, I just put in 4 37-inch LCDs into the store here for tournaments. We're going to do some of the new stuff like the Black Ops, the Call of Duty, the Halo Reach tournaments, but we're also going to do some throwback tournaments like Super Tecmo Bowl, RBI Baseball, maybe some Tyson Punch-Out, just to throw some of the classics in there.
That's cool. Hey, speaking of the classics, now that we're looking at the 25th anniversary of Nintendo, are there any old ones that are really worth some money? Is there any old games or systems or anything that we might have stashed away in our basement that could actually be worth something?
Well, there are some. Nintendo had a stadium events, which, released a super limited number of copies. It was an Olympic-type game. There was like 10 copies of it out there, and I don't even know if that many exist anymore because obviously some of the stuff was thrown out. But just recently, about 4 or 5 months ago on eBay, a woman found a Nintendo in her basement, not knowing that she had anything there. The Nintendo, it's worth what it's worth. But she had the stadium events. There was a gold edition. And, it got bid up to something like $30,000. And she's like, what's going on? She had no idea what she had. And without even, putting it in the listing that she had stadium events, it still was bid up to, like I said, I think it was over $30,000 for a Nintendo with this game. But if you have, the old Nintendo or Atari, anything with that's been boxed or still sealed, that's where the money comes in. That's what's valuable, and that's what people like to collect.
Kevin, what about Kevin's on, by the way, from Oogie Game, Sheridan and Eggert in Tonawanda, 25th anniversary of Nintendo. How have the gaming systems themselves held up, and do you know of any place that fixes them to get them back on track?
That's all us, my man. Here at Oogie Games, we buy, sell, trade, and we repair. We're like the only guys in town that repair everything from the Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all the way through to the Xbox 360 overheating, laser repairs, PS3 repairs. We fix them all here. Just bring it in. We'll give you a free estimate, and within a day or two, we'll have an estimate back to you, and you can let us know if you want us to go ahead with the repair.
Other than Super Tecmo Bowl, if you had a full day to kill, which Nintendo game would you kill it with?
Oh, are we talking the original Nintendo?
Yeah. Well, whatever you want to consider. As long as it's under the Nintendo umbrella.
Yeah, I would say, you know what? I love going back to the original Mario Brothers or the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out if we're talking original Nintendo.
Right.
I could definitely play Tyson's Punch-Out for a while. But you know what? You learn all the tricks, and then it gets, so easy. And
right. Well, like for example, cheat codes. How much time would you waste tracking down cheat codes?
Well, you know what? With the internet these days now, everything's at your fingertips. It's not like you're calling up your buddies like, oh, do you have the codes? Do you have the codes? Bam, you go to Google and type in whatever game you got, and the cheat codes are popping right up.
Right. But
we used to have like the Game Genie back then.
Uh-huh.
They have like the Action Replay now, but all those codes are accessible online. And actually, the cheat codes were actually made for the game producers, the game makers, to test their game without having to actually play through the game. And then they were released and leaked. And then, the video game industry was like, oh, look, this is actually a good thing because, it's what people want. They want to be cheaters.
Right. Well, it's hilarious. But before the Internet, it was a constant hunt to try and get the codes, right?
Yeah, 100%, man, because you get to a point in a game and they give you a code. And then, once you got that code, you wrote it down on your piece of paper, tucked it in your pocket, and then, passed it along to your friends.
Did guys ever make money selling them?
I would assume so. I mean, I don't know how I didn't think of that.
Yeah, right. That'd be some enterprising youth. Kevin is on, by the way, from Oogie Games, talking about the 25th anniversary of Nintendo.
And Nintendo continues to lead the way. The Wii is several years old now since it came out, but it's only now that we're starting to see some of the other manufacturers catch up with the technology. Isn't PlayStation now coming out with the movement stuff?
Yeah, what happened was Microsoft and Sony went to the more of the user, of the teenager or mid-20s and 30s male. That's what they were targeting with all these sports games, all the action games, the killing games, first-person shooters. And Nintendo says, let's do the total opposite. We'll go for families and kids, and Nintendo is just killing it. And then, Microsoft and Sony is like, whoa, what's going on? We're not getting this market. Let's try to tap into it. So just recently, the PlayStation Move came out, which is just a set of controllers and a camera, and it's pretty much just like the Wii, except for you have the camera. You're actually in the game. It's using a camera and the motion controllers. And then with the PlayStation 3, unlike the Nintendo, the PlayStation 3 is actually high definition, which Nintendo's going to have to catch back up with their high def.
Nice. Listen, we'll be in touch about video games. Kevin, thanks for coming on. This is Kevin McLong, Oogie Games, Sheridan and Eggert in Tonawanda. Take care, Kevin.
All right, guys. Thanks anytime.
Thanks. All right. Sounds cool. Thanks. 25 years of Nintendo. I kind of missed out on a little bit of that Nintendo.
Just ended up getting a call. A guy said that he took his PS3 in.
Yeah.
And I believe they're going to charge him. It was going to take 8 weeks, $250. Kevin fixed it, half hour, $100.
Wow. Nice.
Pretty cool. So,
nice.
Kevin, thanks a lot. We'll be in touch. Maybe that Tecmo Super Bowl, fundraiser might not be a bad idea.
That could be cool.
It might be a little tournament. That makes a lot of sense.